Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the Chris Voss Show.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast. Certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to refer the show to your friends, neighbors, relatives. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit that bell notification button. Go to iTunes, Google Play. You can tell folks they can subscribe there, as well as the Spotify, where you can listen to the Lawrence Welk Show, the Chris Voss podcast, and then go listen to, I don't know, Dolly Parton, because why not? Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate all of you. And as always, we have the best and most interesting guests. I showed up or appeared on this gentleman's podcast a couple weeks ago, and we have him on. He's written over 14 books. Damn, that's a lot of writing. His name is Mark S.A. Smith. You've probably seen him on the interwebs or speaking at different events and things of that nature. Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you today?
Thank you, Chris. I'm delighted to be here, I think.
Are we all? Let's face it. It was kind of funny. We to give those of you who weren't in the pre-show, we were having a lot of fun, me and Mark, and I think we did the better part of the show after that. We're going to have to see how this turns out.
I expect for it to be great. We just got warmed up. The good stuff is yet to flow out.
We got just warmed up. That's what it was. We were warming up. The pre-show is the warm-up, or but that's what I tell my girlfriend, and she's not happy. So anyway, the 14 books, you've got some behind you, I think.
I do. Yeah.
Let's just get some plugs in on those books.
Well, what it means is that I have no life.
Well, you are married. I know that. So that's a given. But let's get some plugs. Let's get some websites where let's
get some stuff. It's actually pretty fun. I was fortunate enough to write some books with J. Conrad Levinson, Mr. Guerrilla Marketing. First one started off with trade show selling. Now, the interesting thing about trade shows is that you essentially run a 15-second funnel.
15-second funnel?
Right, because you have a second and a half as people walk by your exhibit to grab their attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got about 3 seconds to ask them a question to see if they're somebody you want to talk with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got about 10 seconds, 11 seconds to figure out if they're going to hand you their business information so you can follow up with them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's all about how do you run a fast funnel when you're trying to do business.
I thought a fast funnel at trade show was when I meet those hot booth babes and I ask to take my picture with them. Is that like a different thing?
Yeah, it's kind of it's more of a feel than a funnel.
That's a feel funnel?
Yeah, it's a feel funnel.
That would explain why the judge says I can't do that anymore. I'm not allowed it at certain events. I'm not allowed at CES anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, I know you're going to be there. So they tie your hands before you go in there.
Well, yeah. Well, they did after those handcuffs involved. So there was that. But
well, the other aspect of CES is with the virtual reality, the augmented reality. You can do anything you want as long as you got the glasses on.
Pretty much. I mean, that's how the adult industry. I forget what it's called now, so I can't pull this joke. Conferences here. Was the adult industry conference, not to throw you under the bus?
Yeah. Well, I've never attended, although I have seen the talent pass through the hotel lobbies.
Yeah, haven't we all? Welcome to Vegas. It should be noted that we both live in Vegas, so indeed. I'm not sure why the hell we aren't doing this together live. I guess separated by 15 minutes of drive time.
That's about it.
The ultimate white male laziness in our part. So we just couldn't commit that much to the show when it came down to it.
Yeah, that just means I have to bring my microphones and all that kind of stuff.
That's true.
You know, another time, maybe we'll do something from the CES
we should
floor.
Do a combined show. Yeah. I'm supposed to get down to SEMA. I have a press badge for SEMA.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this special thing called being fucking lazy right now. And I'm every day I'm like, I should get up and go to SEMA. And then I'm like, but then I'd have to like walk around and like dress up, talk to people, and
yeah. Well, what would tell our listener what SEMA means and why it's an important show?
Yeah, at this point they're thinking SEMA. That must be another adult adult show, the Seaman Show.
It's a collection, yes.
Yeah, SEMA's what does SEMA stand for? Right?
It's something like a Car Engineering Association of America. It's a car show. It's the biggest car show. It runs for 10 days and takes over the entire city.
Yeah, and there's a lot of booth babes. In fact, I just reminded why
they fly them in.
Yeah. In fact, note to self: go to SEMA today. So, Mark, give us a website that people can look you up and stuff. And, of course, they can probably get your books on Amazon, I'm sure, right?
Well, absolutely, they sure can. Actually,
what is it on Amazon?
The Amazon, just Mark S.A. Smith. You can find my books that I have currently for sale up there. And I just realized that this book I handed you has my daughter's name written when she was like 3 years old. That's how old this is. Yeah, so you can go to Amazon, you can go to bijaco.com, where you can find lots of information about me, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. But now, we shouldn't be doing the plug stuff. First, we should be talking about cool shit so people know why they want to connect with me.
Well, we always do the plugs at the beginning so people can look you up, because God knows they're not looking at my fat in the podcast. So I give them something to distract them. It's a distraction technique. Yeah. It's my version of a caravan.
You're not going to believe this, Chris. I just looked up SEMA, just like the DJs do on, when you
careful on the spelling.
It's SEMA, and it's the Specialty Equipment Market Association. Specialty Equipment Market Association. So it's fundamentally aftermarket stuff for cars.
Yep. Yeah. It's for people who want to take their cars and build cool stuff on them or weird stuff on them.
Yeah, that's it.
That are just people want to go look at booth babes. I gotta remember to go there now.
Yeah.
Clearly I have booth babe on the mind now.
You do. Yeah, you have to go pick up some swag from the booth babe. All right, a couple other books here. We'll just whip through these things. We have Guerrilla Teleselling. How do you create a relationship when you can't be there in person? Then the Guerrilla Negotiating, which is an interesting book in that this is the antidote to all the dirty tricks that buyers play on us. So most negotiating books are how do you get a better deal. This is how do you keep more margin. How do you resist that? Hey, I can get it cheaper somewhere else kind of stuff. And we can go down that rabbit hole if you want to do that.
That's awesome.
A couple of other books. Yeah.
So you guys wrote a lot of books regarding the guerrilla marketing sort of tactics, the guerrilla marketing sort of approaches. Do you have one for guerrilla dating? That's the one I need.
There is one out there. I didn't write it, but there is a guerrilla dating book that has Jay's name on it, written by another guy who's probably single still.
Now, of course, I'm not. Make sure those of you who are listening in the audience are not seeing this visually. I'm not referring to gorilla. I'm referring to guerrilla.
Yeah, that's right. Guerrilla, as in the freedom fighter.
Guerrilla. Yeah, we're not advocating bestiality in any way, shape, or form on the show. Even though I am bringing up dating me. So there's that. But,
a couple of geek books that I did. Linux in the Boardroom. This thing was written for a long time ago for executives who thought they might want to bring Linux into their world so they don't have to pay Microsoft their egregious taxes. Another follow-up book, Security in the Boardroom. And this is an early book on cybersecurity. Interestingly, I'm going to be turning this into a continuing education course for CPAs.
Wow.
Weird. Then the latest book, this one's for the IT world, called From MSP to BSP. MSP is Managed Services Provider to BSP, Business Services Provider, how to pivot from profit from IT. Now, this book is going to be rewritten as a generic book. This is all about how do you sell complex, expensive stuff.
Oh.
I know that our listeners are typically geeks and freaks and people who build really cool stuff. And if you just take that part off of it, this teaches you how to sell that exotic technology that we all know and love.
MSP and what? Give me the book title again. MSP.
Sure, it's from MSP to BSP.
Yeah,
MSP stands for
an inoculation for that.
You probably did.
It's a sexually transmitted disease, isn't it?
Well, that would be STD. And with this TSA making people take their shoes off, now there's sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
It's a new level of STD.
Travel through the airport. They're like, you have to take your shoes off. And I'm like, oh, man, I didn't wear socks. This is going to be nasty.
Yeah.
Walking around the airport with everyone's feet like that.
That's
You've written a lot of books. I mean, this is pretty prolific, man.
And a bunch of other books, too, that my name's on the inside versus the outside. So, ghostwriting type of stuff.
Was that people writing about you?
No. I write for other people, but those are actually extremely profitable books because they get paid in advance and I don't have to worry about book sales.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I like that.
Kind of a cool way of doing it. Bottom line is it's easy for me to crank out a lot of words, but that's not why we're here today. What shall we talk about that our listener is going to want to go, wow, I'm so glad I tuned in and not just listen to two old white guys babble.
That's pretty much what the name of this podcast is. Two old white middle-aged guys babble whose lives are completely over and
pathetic. Our job is to make our listener feel less pathetic.
Yeah, because God knows it should be just one guy talking to. Cranky Old Men. That's probably the name of the upcoming podcast. We have tune in after your Metamucil kicks in, and we're sponsored. We can probably get some good sponsors for that because there's a lot of people now. I mean, that middle-aged old market. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, that's where everyone's at right now with those baby boomers retiring.
Just a bunch of baby boomers where everything has stopped working.
Yeah.
So they're willing to buy stuff that promises to make it work again, although it doesn't.
We can get Metamucil signed up, Depends diapers.
Oh yeah. Insure.
Viagra. I actually could use a Viagra sponsor. Come to think of it.
Yep. Maybe get your numbers up.
I am 50 now, so it's getting a little hard to chase those 20-year-old girls around the room. Those good babes. So it's getting a little hard to chase them around the room. So let's talk about. Let's pick one of your books and talk about. How about that?
Well, let's talk about one of the concepts that in this latest book is the concept of high consideration sales versus low consideration sales. If we want to get tactical for just a moment, so here's the problem that we face today. Virtually everything that we sell requires multiple people to say yes before we can get the deal. And in the world of consumers, rarely is there just one person unless they're single. The person who has to say yes. There usually are multiple people involved, spouse, perhaps children are involved in the decision.
Sounds like my dating life.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Here's the deal. You ask the person that you're with, where do you want to have dinner? And they say, I don't know, where do you want to go to dinner? And
sounds like my dating life.
So, you name a restaurant and they go, no, I don't want that. Well, then why did you ask me where I wanted to eat?
Yeah.
And so I don't care. We come up with list after list after list of restaurants that I don't care wants to go to. And we usually settle on Cheesecake Factory because of its War and Peace size menu can satisfy everybody. Although I think the food sucks, but
I think it sucks too.
But at least you go to the same place, and the drinks don't suck. That's the good news.
Yeah, that's usually the main thing. You're just like, I'm so sick of negotiating where we're gonna go eat. And I like here, and I like there, and I like here. What the fuck do you like? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So there's this challenge that we face where people have a different yes set to agree.
Is that what it is?
It's a yes set. What are you going to say yes to? That's the yes set. And that yes set is usually not just one thing. It's a number of things. And we have to figure out what those things are that cause them to say yes. Like frequently with my wife, she says, what do you want for dinner? I said, sushi. She said, I had it yesterday. Well, I didn't.
Yeah. It's just, I thought this was about what I want.
Well, and it's no big deal. It's just that her yes set was not that today.
Huh.
And so when we sell things to people, we have to figure out what their yes set is so that we can then address our product to their yes set.
Uh-huh.
So what I've gone to then is, so what type of flavors are you looking for? You want sweet, you want salty, you want savory, you want vegetables, you want fresh, you want pickled. What's that kind of flavor profile that you're kind of going for? And then based on that, I can make a recommendation. I think I can live with. And then the interesting things these days is that we walk this line between what we want and what we will tolerate. That sounds like your dating life yet again, Chris.
That sounds like my dating life. Sounds like some of the women at my age who are older than me that approach me on Bumble.
Bumble.
What we want and what we can't get drunk enough to put up with.
What we can tolerate. It's an interesting concept. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be tolerable.
Just have to be what's interesting too about this concept is there's also a reverse factor of that. I have this place that I go to that they make these great burgers on the corner, and I go there a lot, clearly. You can just look at me and tell that information.
Yeah, you are the Burger King.
Huh?
You are the Burger King.
Oh, yeah, something like that. Tell that to my dietitian. So
why do you date her too?
Every time I go there, they always ask, whoever's working there always asks me the same thing. And they go, what do you want on your burger? And I go, I want everything except for the lettuce. And I want the grilled onions and not the raw onions, because it's kind of stupid to get the grilled onions with the raw onions. It doesn't make any sense, right? So I go, I want everything but the lettuce, because I'm against lettuce. It's not racial, it's just political. So it said no lettuce, and I want grilled onions, not the thing. That's not that hard to do. Well, the problem is they have on their menu screen like 20 things they have to hit. Maybe they do this because they're fucking lazy or something. But they'll be like, so you want everything? I'm like, yes, everything except for the lettuce. And they're like, you want the pickles? Yeah, I think that's included in everything, buddy. Do you want the ketchup? Yeah. I want. They do this every time. They argue with me about the thing. What is that called? It's like reverse something.
I think what it's called is people that have a menu think. If it's not on the menu, they can't do it.
Well, it's on the menu. It's just, it's like they don't trust me to know that I want everything.
Yeah. I have to tell them, I want everything, including the jalapenos, and I'll just take off what I don't want.
Yeah, that's probably what I should do. But it's just the concept of all. They're just like, you want everything?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know whether that's a projection of like, well, I wouldn't eat that, or I wouldn't have it that way.
Well, it's entirely possible it's a projection. I think you're right.
Yeah. So maybe it's the reverse of what you're talking about, where you ask them, well, what do you want? They're like, I don't know. And then you go, well, do you want the pickles? And they're like, no. And you're like, well, make up your mind. I don't know.
It could be. We'll get philosophical in just a moment. Ooh, we're going to go deep. Better tie on 2x4 to your backside so we can get back out. The reality is that more people make decisions by doors closing than doors opening.
Sounds like my dating life.
Well, there it is.
So most people make by doors closing. So is it because they need to eliminate the options, so they have fewer options because they get option overload?
That's it. They get option overload. Yeah, that's exactly right. And frequently what happens is people who are selling technology will present you with a brochure that is just so rich and deep in all the speeds and feeds and bits and bytes and flashing lights and ABs and trays and cables and arrays. The problem is that a customer confused cannot choose.
Yeah.
And so we're way better off not giving them stuff and started asking them questions about, do you like pickles? No. Okay, then I'm not going to show you my pickles.
Yeah.
And
like dating life.
I love it. This is an entire setup to discuss Chris's
we're going to beat this
dating life. Well, so far it's still funny. I guess the show will end when we stop being funny about Chris's dating life. But here's the challenge: is a lot of people that they show up with too much information. It's like you going to the doctor, and the doc says, "Hey, Chris, check this out." Thud. He lands on the counter a book that's 4 inches thick. He says, "Chris, this is the physician's desk reference. Every drug that I am licensed to prescribe is listed in this book. Let's see. What do you want to take home today?"
That sounds like my kind of doctor, actually.
Yeah.
It actually sounds like my dating life.
Well, that doesn't help solve your problem.
It doesn't, but I don't know. I did learn this a long time ago, though, in sales, that you can overload the customer with too many options.
Too fast.
And it's better to give them an either-or sort of option, or maybe 2 or 3 options, as opposed to 50 million options. And
exactly.
I found that sometimes I've gotten really overly creative, because a lot of times when I do proposals, I'll do a la carte proposals. I'll be like, well, here's a proposal where you can have this, or you can, have some more options up at here, and then there's more value in it. And I try and create at least 2 or 3 of those. But sometimes I've been overly creative at, like, let's make a la carte options. and you make so many, and the client's just like, I got back to you. And then you email them later, and you're like, did you get a chance to make a decision? They're like, I'm still trying to read your email, man. And you're like, look,
you got to make it easy.
Give me some money, I'll figure it out for you, and we'll be okay. And they're like, I don't, whatever. So the buyers do like a simplistic thing.
They do. And if you think back to the old Sears and Roebuck methodology, which worked for decades until they dropped the ball, they had good, better, and best. They had 3 types of flavors for every product that they brought to market.
Mm-hmm.
And they sold primarily better and best. And good was just there to set up better and best as what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, well, I don't want the low part of the 3.
I don't want good is not good enough.
No, I at least want good, but geez, if I'm going to pay for good, then I might as well get best.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. It's a strategy. And it still works that way. In fact, if you take a look at most online sellers, they have a 3-product offer.
So is 3 the optimal?
Well, it certainly seemed to be so because you got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Well, okay.
So we go to the highest power. 3 is the optimal choice.
I guess so.
It ends up.
I didn't realize that was the baseline that we were drawing from.
We're like we're the top line.
Around everything.
Hey, if we're gonna get philosophical once in a while on the Chris Voss Show,
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost sounds like my dating life on Friday.
3 choices. So the answer is that actually 3 is good. 3 is
dating life choices for Chris.
3 is a good strategy because people can handle.
Dated twins. I never dated triplets, so the jury's still out on that one.
All right. Well, maybe put that on your bucket list.
It is actually on my bucket list. But I digress.
And as you usually do, which is one of the reasons why we listen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go into the choosing stories on that. But so anyway, so what's the best approach in using what you're talking about? And do you have advice on how I can negotiate with a girlfriend or wife better when they say, where do you want to go out to eat? Is it better to question them and go, well, what do you feel like eating? Do you feel like pickles?
That's it.
Not honey, not tonight, honey. I have a headache. Do you feel like going out for drinks?
Yes.
Yeah. Usually the way it worked with my girlfriends I would be like, where do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. And you're like, well, do you want to go to the taco place? No. Do you want to go to McDonald's? No. You want to go to Taco Bell? No. You want to go to the expensive oyster bar? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me guess. I'm paying.
I want you to take me to someplace that's expensive. We went to the airport.
Yeah. Go to the airport. And then you can eat McDonald's burgers for $20 a pop.
That's exactly right. That's where the source of the original $20 burger was.
I don't know if there's anybody who does that. Like they show up at TSA and they're like, I'm not really here to fly, but I just really like to pay for expensive food here I just eat at the airport.
That's it. Well, certainly in Denver that's the case because in Terminal B is Elway's Steakhouse.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually one of the best places to get food on the planet. It's in the airport. Now, Elway's also has places outside that, but it's fantastic food. And they have intelligent wait staff, which is unheard of in most airports.
What do they do? Like do EMC squared for you and like
they
round
can.
off?
They can.
Shit like that?
Well, where else? I've never been to another airport where I can get a barrel-aged Manhattan.
A barrel-aged Manhattan?
Barrel-aged Manhattan. It's called Elway's Manhattan, and I stop in there, even have a 15-minute connect between flights, just because it's so damn good. So, but no, they're just intelligent. They know how to. When you say I want everything except for lettuce, they know what that means.
Are you saying the other waiters at other restaurants are dumb?
Low cognitive capacity is the way that I like to express that.
I'd hate to be.
And the reason why is because dumb people go, yeah, what he said.
I don't know what that is. Like every time I go there, they have to argue with me.
Yeah.
Is it because I'm overloading them with options? Is that what it is?
Maybe it is.
Put ketchup and mustard on it. I need to give them 2 choices. Is that how it has to work?
Maybe, or it just may be that they just like to mess with you.
So this is really my fault.
Here comes Chris, man. We're gonna mess with him today.
With this, dude. Maybe, you know what? I think what it is, they're looking at me going, seriously, do you really need everything? I mean, are you seeing yourself in the mirror? Fuck, you need everything. No wonder you want all. Holy crap! Like, cut back. We're trying to give you a hint here, buddy. Like, maybe cut the pickles off or something, or the meat, or Jesus Christ. Have you weighed yourself lately?
Well, if you're going to leave any one thing off the burger, probably the mayonnaise would be the choice. Or perhaps the cheese.
I'm not even sure if they put mayonnaise. I know they put cheese on there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're judging me. And they're just like, you really want everything? Like, clearly you've had everything. You really need more? Seriously. Get a mirror. Scale at home, buddy.
Yeah. And you're asking them to take off the things that have the fewest number of calories.
I think what it is they're just fucking lazy.
Yeah, well, there is that.
They're millennials, and I'm asking the press. I think what it is they don't have like an all button on the thing, and because they literally do this. I'm not kidding you. They take they have one of those sales machines that are kind of the new ones. It's got like a little iPad touch system on it, and they literally spin it around to me, and they go, "You want all of this?" And there's like little buttons that they have to hit on each one.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, they're just fucking lazy. They're just like, I'm going to have to hit every one of these buttons because he wants all. And like, they'll even be like, you want the peppers? Yeah, I want it all, man.
And maybe the thing to do is say, spin that machine my way and let me order my burger.
That's what I should do.
No tip for you.
Damn burger. And then, what's funny is they always ask for a tip. They spin the thing around and they go, do you want a tip? And I'm like, what? You're not going to. I hate this new age of people that think they get a tip for doing what they're supposed to. Like, I understand, and it's appropriate that I get a tip if you serve me at my table. You bring me my food. You refill my beverages.
You did your job.
Yeah. You are worthy of a tip at that point, especially if you put up with me, because I drink a lot and clearly I eat a lot. But this weight jokes and dating Chris jokes today. That's pretty much where we're at. And Mark Smith. So I understand you need a tip, but this bullshit that because you sold me a $5 coffee at Starbucks, like Starbucks has got this annoying thing on their app that they come out with where it hounds you for like the rest of the day on your phone saying, did you want to leave a tip? You have 6 hours, leave a tip.
Whoa, no way.
You haven't seen that?
For doing your job?
Yeah,
tips.
And you're overselling me a goddamn $5 fucking coffee.
Right. I think you got plenty of margin there.
Yeah.
To pay for your people.
You didn't even brew this shit. You just squirt it out of a squirter thing. I know how this is. It's just syrup. It's not like they're like.
Yeah, you're pumping syrup into a glass.
Pumping syrup, adding some water. Here's your stupid latte, motherfucker.
So here's a bit of arcane knowledge for you. TIPS stands for to ensure prompt service.
Really?
Really.
I saw this video online one time that it's actually based on racism.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Don't know for sure, but the idea was
true.
Well,
seems
it was
like something Americans would do, though.
Well, there was this. It goes back to the railway days, and people of color serving food on railways who were seriously underpaid, and it was a way to improve the to reduce the perceived laziness, and to ensure prompt service. That was the concept.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not so sure it's racist. I think it was actually people taking care of people.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, to me, I've always equated it to if someone's going to do a little bit extra for you, like certainly there's, I've had those waitresses or waiters where they go take a smoke break for half an hour in the back, and you're like parched dry. You're like sitting at the table. Oh, I'm choking on the chicken. I could use some water.
Right.
The Sahara Desert has moved into your mouth after you've downed the bean dip. And you're just like, hey, man, can I get some water to wash this down? And then, of course, you have the really great waitresses that are super attentive, almost annoyingly so. Like, I always get those ones when I go to some of the places for breakfast where you get your coffee mixed just how you want it. You get that perfect mixture of cream and sugar and it's all mixed there, and it's got that perfect flavor. And you're like about 3/4 of the way through that thing, just a little bit's gone. And they come by and they go, "Want some coffee?" Fuck them your formula.
Right.
And so I'm always jamming my hand and hey, stay away from my perfectly mixed coffee, you evil person.
No, in that case, you have to put an anti-roofie device on your coffee to keep them from putting in the
pretty
bad
much
stuff. Yeah.
I don't know. For me, roofies and coffee, that's just what we call Wednesdays around here.
That will do for sure.
Not sure why I'm roofing myself, but it is Vegas after all.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that count on being roofied here. At least that's what they say to their spouse when they go home.
That's my girlfriends used to do that. I'd be like, "Tonight, honey," and they're like, "Oh, I'm roofied." And you're like, "Well, okay."
What a wide-ranging conversation we've had.
Zombie sex again tonight.
Right.
It's kind of like what's that drug they take for sleeping?
What, Ambien?
Yeah, the Ambien.
See, I've read the PDR.
Is that a PDR?
The physician's desk reference. That's a callback to earlier in the show. I've actually read that. The weirdest thing that I read in the physician's desk reference was there was a drug at one time called cobroxin. And it was designed for cancer patients to provide them extreme pain relief. And it was based on cobra venom.
Cobra venom?
Cobra venom.
That's one way to go, I guess.
And the way that they dosed it was called in rat units. And a rat unit is how much it would take to kill a rat. I am not kidding you.
And they gave this to people?
They would give this to terminal cancer patients. Of course, this was back in the 70s. When I was a kid and I had free time on my hand and I read shit like the physician's desk reference. But I know, I'm a weird guy. Lots of weird stuff. So there you go. Yeah, maybe so. Weird shit that I've learned that nobody cares about. But Ambien is the stuff that puts people to sleep, and made Roseanne tweet about Valerie Jarrett, and of course her show is gone, and apparently the Connor show is off the air as well, or will be soon.
Oh, really? No,
we're
tuning into it.
It is the lowest ranked show for its time slot.
Well, I mean, you really did tune in. I mean, you really did tune in to see Roseanne because she is the car crash.
Oh, right? She is. When I was growing up in Colorado Springs, she lived in Fountain, which was the next city over, and she'd do stand-up at the local clubs, and she was hilarious.
Yeah.
This was before she went to L.A. and got a facelift. But she was just this big, fat, dumpy broad.
What the hell did it look like before?
Yeah, you don't want to know.
My God, I don't want to know now.
But, yeah, my favorite line of hers back from those days is, "I know what guys want, and I give it to them, too. Clean underwear and a big bowl of chili."
Well, that is true.
So there's your perfect woman.
I had a big bowl of chili the other day at the local Timbers here, and they make some really good chili. And you know what's really good? My waitresses, speaking of great waitresses, she said to me, she says, "Do you want some sour cream with that?" And I'm like, "I've never had sour cream in my chili." Oh, yeah. I will have that.
Oh, yeah. Sour cream, jalapenos, chopped fresh onion, and a nice healthy dosage of pepper jack.
You realize most people going through this show are like, what the fuck is going on and what this is about?
Yeah, but they're just using it for background noise anyway, and hoping they can extract a nugget or two from the show.
They're probably popping the Ambien, going, "This is what I doze off to." That is probably my audience on the Chris Voss Show. I put people to sleep.
I don't think that's the case. You bring people new, interesting ideas wrapped in jovial banter.
Jovial banter?
Yeah, we charge extra for that.
So, getting back to the choice thing, how can we be better at selling stuff and giving better choices, I guess? Well,
the way you have to do that is with an assessment. You know, you have to ask people questions, and really, you sell way more if you ask questions. But they have to be smart questions. Yeah. They can't be stupid, invasive, dumb questions like, "Are you sure you want everything?"
Are you sure you want everything?
That's not a good smart question. It has to do with preferences. That's what we're looking for is preferences, and understanding that everybody that you're going to be speaking to has different preferences, and it's a moving target. Just what somebody preferred last time you spoke to them isn't necessarily something they prefer this time. And preferences are always tied to identity, which is an interesting concept. It's how people view themselves. And so, you're the kind of guy who likes to make jokes about the people that he dates. So therefore, you're going to be dating jokes.
Actually, they make jokes about me, but usually it's over dinner. And
see, there it is.
Yeah,
that's your identity. You generated this really interesting identity for yourself, so you make choices around that identity. You didn't know this would turn into a therapy session, did you?
Mostly, the whole reason for this podcast is fucking therapy.
Oh, I'm doing free therapy for
It
Chris?
doesn't help me at all.
Maybe it helps our listener, though, because our listener's like, oh, my God, that explains exactly why I keep dating morons.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I'm here. I'm here to expose my life so that people can analyze me. That's pretty much why my audience tunes in. They're like, let's see what this fucktard's up to today, man.
That's exactly right. Just to make me feel less pathetic.
We haven't seen him on the news. He hasn't loaded up a rifle in the bell tower, and he's taking pot shots at millennials from the bell tower.
Well, and the reason why you know is because if you do that, your show's done.
Well, that's true, too. I might do the show while I'm taking pot shots at millennials. You lazy bastards. I won't really kill them because I'm not that kind of person, but I might try and shoot their phone out of their hands so I can wound their Instagram cruising or something. I don't know.
That's an interesting strategy.
I made a joke today about how, because we were talking on Facebook about how 30% of lazy millennials will, 30% of them will show up to vote. The other 60% are just lazy. And we were talking about, I guess Snapchat last week was bragging about how they signed up a whole mess of kids to register to vote. And I'm like, if Snapchat and Instagram really want to help people vote, millennials vote, just shut that shit down for a day. Just turn off the app, put a screen, get off your lazy ass, millennial, and go fucking vote.
Well, I think there it is. No internet for you until you vote.
Exactly. That's how you get people.
You want your internet back?
Yep.
All right. Go. Just make a choice. We don't care what it is. Just make a choice. So that
here's another good idea to get more people to vote.
Yeah.
Put voting polling stations in fucking Starbucks.
Oh, there you go.
Everyone have their voting done like 9 a.m.
That's a brilliant idea. I think ultimately we're going to be voting from our device.
I would like to see that. Hopefully we'll see that, assuming we're going to be voting anymore after this.
Yeah, well, I think we probably will be. I expect for that not to change.
I would hope not.
Getting back to the concept here of choices, and really it's that personal identity, and I took a riff that took us off that, so I'm going to reel us back in. People make choices that support their identity, and that identity changes over time. That's the reason why we have to keep asking them questions and smart questions. And questions fall into three fundamental categories. And so category one is objective. What do you want to achieve? So if you're going out to dinner with your alternative loved one there, the question is, it just depends which you're doing. Are you looking for hunger suppression, or are you looking for an experience? Hunger suppression will go for fast food. Experience will pick something that provides that kind of a level of experience. And fundamentally, that's what it is, right? Do you want to go out and celebrate, or you just want to get some food in your stomach so you can move on to go home and, Netflix and chill?
So does it come down to what I want to identify at the mood I'm currently in?
That's part of it. It's objective. What do you want to accomplish? What's the outcome that you seek?
Because I know that people do buy an identity, and when they look at things and they make decisions about cars or watches or just about whatever they do, when they pick wives and husbands, they're like, how does this, mostly wives, when they pick how well does this
that's the concept of a trophy wife or trophy husband.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who is either a provider or a mom or a dad or whatever they're looking for in an outcome. And that's usually why second spouses or third spouses tend to be more trophy style or functional versus dysfunctional.
Yeah, I mean that's I'm on my 7th marriage. I'm still trying to find a trophy wife. My last wife was like, I think I was a trophy because she's like, I get this idiot to marry me. I'm not sure what that means. But no, it's interesting to me. I never really thought about identity drilling down to that deep, that small of a level. But I guess everything we do when we buy and we make decisions is based upon our identity and how it reflects on us.
That's exactly right. And that's the reason why testimonials become really important. Reviews become so important in our decision-making process. Because what we do is we read the review and see, is this something that supports my identity? Are these people that are reviewing this? Are these people that are buying this in my identity pool?
Mm-hmm.
Because all of us want to think that we're smart enough to make good choices.
Mm-hmm.
And by reading reviews and seeing the ratings of things, we get to then decide whether this is something that we want or we can tolerate. You can tolerate three-star.
You're really correct. I get this validation during Christmas, and it's really weird because of all the product reviews we do on the Chris Voss Show on YouTube.
In that case, it's the Christmas Voss Show.
Yeah, the Christmas Voss Show. Around Christmas, pre-holiday, I see the views start to really escalate, and they go up quite a bit. And it's people that are trying to figure out what they want to buy. Now, I think it's also people trying to figure out what they want to ask for as well.
Sure. Oh, totally.
Yeah. And then what's interesting to me is that after Christmas, for about a month, the views still keep on this high of escalation. And the comments begin to be anywhere from, how do I make this work? Or I just got this and I want to make sure it was cool and that I'm going to keep it. And so it's like the validation to like, should I return this or should I keep this?
Well, I think that's a really fascinating insight. And part of the reason why the views are going to grow is because you've had so much organic traffic that when they're searching on that to figure out how does it work and if they're going to keep it, you're the top of the list.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me there because I'll get these comments where people will be like, they'll be a little vague about it. They're like, oh, I just got this last week and yeah, so it looks good. So thanks. And you're like, were you deciding whether or not you're going to keep the product or return it? Or there are some people that they haven't figured out how to get it to work. And they're like, oh, I see how it works now. Or sometimes I get shit because I didn't show something, how something was put together, or how something worked. Like I get yelled at all the time on printer things where I don't show it printing something and the speed that it does. And I'm like, well, it does say on the box, and I did say that in the feature set, that it does 20 sheets per minute, but do I really have to fucking do a video for half an hour with printing a sheet so that you can see how fast 20 pages per minute is?
Well, that only matters if your computer can spit out 20 pages per minute.
That sounds like a personal problem for some people.
It is.
I mean, it's 2018. I mean,
I hope so.
You remember the days when there used to be that, what was it, dot matrix or whatever?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And it would have that paper with the... what was that paper called?
It was called green bar.
Yeah, green bar, and it had the ridges. You had to peel that crap off.
Yep, you had to tear off the perforations.
Perforated
green bar. And I would go to sleep at night hearing that dot matrix screaming in my ears. Just because
it'd take like half an hour to print anything.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you were a real geek, you'd make wrapping paper from that green bar, and you'd print their name on it. And step and repeat. And let's get back to the content here versus flashing back.
Or back flashing.
Oh, sure. Why not? So the idea here is objective. What do people want to...
This is the most fucked up show I've ever done in a while, and it's great.
Well, I got to tell you, it takes me to make that happen.
We got to do this more often.
All right, I'm up for that.
So backtracking or whatever.
Right. We were talking about objective and identity and how it's a moving target and how at Christmas time people are getting on the show and they're making comments on your show, and what they're doing is they're actually reinforcing their identity.
Oops, sorry, I had to laugh.
That's great.
This is getting so funny. So, yeah. I'm sorry, Mark.
For what, man? There's no reason. Laughter is a great thing, man.
Know, you're just cracking me up.
I took you from a weird morning to laughing.
Yeah.
This is a good day, friend.
So help me understand this. I used to have this girlfriend, and I used to have a girlfriend. That's weird.
I used to have this girlfriend.
Yeah, it was only one. But I used to have this girlfriend, and she's a pretty funny chick. and she used to be a model in L.A. and she was really.
How many years ago?
How'd you describe
How many years ago was she a model in L.A. when you met her?
Well, it'd been about 10 years and 2 kids since she'd been a model, but she still had that model frame. In fact, I used to look at her and be like, "How the hell did you get 2 kids out of that thing?" She was like about this big around, and I'm referring to this part, and I don't know, that's weird. She's about this big around. I think that's weird too. All right, well, hopefully people are listening and not watching.
Now you know how she got the kids out.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot of places I can go with those jokes as a comedian with the hand signals I just made, and this isn't that show.
No, it's not, because we're not serving drinks. That show is a whole lot better with drinks.
Yeah, that's Fridays. So anyway, we'd go out to eat, and it was always funny. And she was a high maintenance, which is another word for pain in the ass, chick, and she was really lovely and wonderful. And probably one of my most favorite girlfriends. Yes, there was more than one. And so we would go out to eat, and I always ordered Caesar salad because I grew up poor, and I liked, Caesar salad was kind of like the thing, and there's your identity, right?
That's right.
And I always like Caesar salad too. If it's done right, you have, beautiful romaine lettuce. I like the way some.
Oh, you do eat lettuce.
Yeah, I do eat lettuce.
Just not on a
it has to have a lot of dressing on it.
Well, that's okay.
So I'd order a Caesar salad. So she would be like, "I want a Caesar salad too, like Chris, but hold the Caesar dressing and put ranch on it."
Oh, okay.
She wanted a side of ranch too, because she's one of those chicks.
Oh,
Don't
sure.
put dressing on, put it on the side. So she'd be like, "I just want a side of ranch." And the waiter or waitress would start being like, "Well, that's not a Caesar salad, honey. That's just a salad with ranch on it." and she'd be like, No. I want a Caesar salad with ranch dressing on the side." And they'd be like, "But ma'am, the thing," and I'd be like, "Hey, waitress, waiter, just give her that. Just trust me. You're not gonna win the fucking argument.
And you're not going to get a tip.
No matter what you did, no matter what I did, no matter what the poor waiter or waitress would do, they could." And we had conversations about this. I'd be like, let me explain salads here to you. Salad composition discussion.
Salad 101.
Yeah.
Tossed Jello.
Take the green stuff, and there's a certain way that but she would have none of that. No matter there was no discussing the logistics or logics of salad composition and preparation. So I just had to live with it. Like every time we'd go out, it'd just be like, "Oh God, it's going to be the salad thing again." And they would just bring her ranch salad, and just, she wouldn't know the damn difference, right?
Yeah.
And
here you go, man.
So
here's your Caesar salad with a side of ranch.
My setup for that is a question to you. I guess that is some sort of form of identity.
It is.
Yeah.
Or in her particular case, she liked the Caesar salad nomenclature, but she didn't like the Caesar salad dressing. Maybe she had something against anchovies.
Well, I never had anchovies on mine. I mean,
but there's anchovies. If it's a Caesar salad dressing, there's anchovies in the dressing. Otherwise, you can't call it Caesar dressing.
Yeah.
And so maybe she didn't like that puttanesca edge.
I don't know.
But it could be. But yes, it is. We get back to identity.
Yeah.
Getting back to this identity.
And she would do the same thing with her meals. Like she couldn't just order something off the menu. It had to be a pain in the ass. Like, I want the steak, but I want the meat, and just, it would be a fucking production by the time they got done. Like the poor waiter or waitress would be running out of shit to write down. And just be like,
did she do that? Did she do that with everything?
Everything, yeah.
Everything. So then what she did, she created this. She had this identity of doing things special just for her. She had to be a special person.
Well, she was a special person.
And she had to have things just her way. And she would create these ways of making sure she called attention to herself by everything was non-normal. Everything was something additional.
Yeah.
And there's a term for that. Narcissist.
That does explain a lot, actually.
And it's fine. You get to live any way that you like. And I have had people in my life that had to have everything slightly different than everybody else. And they are a pain, and you have to love them anyway if you choose to have them in your life.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they're good and bad, so you keep them around.
That's true until they start ordering too many sides.
Yeah. In bed?
Sure.
And it is true. And so basically, if I'm a salesperson, is that what I'm trying to do when I'm asking questions? Am I trying to establish identity?
Yeah, you're trying to figure out their identity and also trying to connect with that. And the reason why is because a customer can never buy from you unless they see what you're selling as becoming part of their identity. And so a low consideration sale is one where they've already agreed that purchasing from you is part of their identity. A high consideration is where they have not yet agreed that you can become part of their identity.
Is part of that me being able to sell them on why this is part of their identity, or why it complements or enhances their identity in some way or another?
Yes, you can't be that blatant about it, unfortunately. Yeah. But the answer is yes. If anybody who who sold real estate will tell you that when the buyer starts imagining the furniture in place, they're trying on the identity of that house. So when the wife is starting to imagine what the bedroom looks like, what the bathroom looks like, and what the kitchen looks like with their stuff in place, they've bought the house.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually what you learn, especially as a realtor.
Yeah.
You learn that the wife, when the wife goes in the home, that's really when the sale takes place. And she's usually looking at 2 or 3 things. She's always looking at the kitchen.
Yep.
She's looking at the bathroom.
Yep.
And she's looking at the master bedroom. Predominantly the master bedroom, how her closet and how big she can.
That's exactly right.
Closet to fit all of her stuff.
That's it. It's those 3 things are what sell a house. Mm-hmm. And it's when the wife sees it as part of their identity that the house is sold.
Definitely.
And so part of what a salesperson has to do is figure out those elements of their customer that need to have the identity alignment, have to come into play, and then make sure that you focus on getting those identity elements in alignment.
So now, as a salesperson, I need to watch for my identity alignment?
Yeah, you look for identity alignment. Because once that happens, then they can say yes. And you just have to have that yes set happen with everybody else. So since we're talking real estate, the wife looks for identity and alignment on the 3 rooms that we discussed, and then the male is going to look for identity alignment for 2 or 3 things as well. Typically it's going to be garage, man cave, maybe yard. Yeah,
and usually like about that much space in the closets.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's a place to hang my guitars and rock and roll without my wife.
And even then, your wife comes in the room every now and then, goes, I can put something in there.
No, my space is sacred. She won't mess with my room.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, every man needs to have their space that can be as messy and screwed up as possible. Nobody's going to bother me.
I used to have that with a few of my girlfriends. I used to get to the point living with them where I'd be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to build me a little guest house.
That's it.
A little doll guest house in the backyard.
That's it.
And I'm just going to go spend most of my time out there.
Yeah.
And I'm just come in here when we commiserate. But I'm just going to go out there. And I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want out there. I'm going to walk around my underwear and pick my nose and fart and, I don't know, play guitar and play a lot of music that
she hates. And have sports on.
Have sports on 24/7, strippers over, working the pole or what? Wait, that is why I'm still single. I'm just going to do that. And then they're always so offended. They're like, what? What? Oh my God. And you're like, no, you have to understand, I have to have my tune out space. I have to have my cave to where I go to refill my bucket to put up with your bullshit. I mean, to thrust it along.
Well, the reality is most men, they hate to admit it, are introverts. And introverts recharge in their own space.
Well, we don't talk as much as women. I have friends I play with on gaming. And and sadly for both he and I don't know who suffers more, his wife, and he must have tile floors or something, but his wife just talks constantly in the background. Like sometimes I'm like, dude, I gotta mute you because I feel like I'm married. I mean, she just never shuts the fuck up. And
that's her identity, isn't it?
Well, I guess. I don't
Always
know.
something to say.
That's how women work through their thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But men are introverts. I mean, I think women are more extroverts is the point I'm trying to make, and men are more introverts. And you know, we as men, we can hang out and not say anything. We can go fishing for a day and not talk to each other the whole day, and that was bonding quality time. Where women have to talk, and that's where, you know, a lot of men lose their mind because they're just like, but yeah, I mean, it's all about identity. You know, the thing I was going to ask you, one of the things I always taught my salespeople, and this usually meant the difference between getting sales and not getting sales, was the first thing I would tell them to do is ask the customer who calls in, or you're calling them, what do you want to accomplish?
Right on.
And that always worked well for us. Is that a way to establish identity in the sales process?
Absolutely. And that goes right to the three different levels of questions: is objective, priorities, and criteria. And what do you want to accomplish is objective. And we always have to start with, what is your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to avoid? And both are possible. You know, it could be usually a blend of both. We're trying to accomplish something, we're trying to avoid something. And so starting off with that objective gets straight to the heart of things.
You know, I never really thought about it, but you just brought this up, and now I understand it better. For Jesus, all the decades I've been doing that.
Unconscious confidence.
People buy sometimes based on fear, and sometimes people buy based upon gain.
Desire. Yeah.
Desire.
Yeah. And usually it's a blend of both.
And so when you do ask somebody, what do you want to accomplish, you're going to find out which drives them.
That's right.
Whether
they're trying to avoid or they're trying to accomplish. And the thing that's interesting is that it usually has to do in the world of business with their role. For example, a CEO is always driving forward. They're trying to accomplish things. And somebody who's on the front line, maybe an IT guy or a lawyer, they're trying to avoid things. So this concept of avoid or accomplish is driven by their role in the organization. And then, of course, people tend to mimic that in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. I learned this a long time ago, especially when I went through a catharsis of, I grew up poor. I wanted to be rich. Then I got rich. I bought everything I wanted. And then I kind of went through this Fight Club experience where I was like, is this all there is? Is this... This is what I wanted, and I finally got it, and it's really not what I thought it would be. And then I became kind of more of a minimalist and dialed that back, and tried to find a place where I could find optimum happiness and fulfillment without creating a world where everything I owned me, and it seemed like no matter how rich I got or how much stuff I got, more people just thought I was an asshole and had their hands out and were driving me crazy, and I couldn't make anyone happy no matter how many drinks I bought or what I paid for. Now I make me happy, and that seems to work pretty good for me last time I checked.
You know, Chris, that's the massive shift that we're seeing in our culture right now. We're going from this age of ownership. As baby boomers, we were taught that we wanted to own the means of production, which meant that if you had a business, you had to own the equipment, you had to have employees that delivered on the services that you provided. It meant that you owned your own house. It meant you owned your own car. You owned all the stuff. And if you wanted to go skiing, you had to own the skis. Now we're shifting this culture to the age of access.
Yes.
Where you own nothing but control everything.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up where my BMWs were my identity.
Right on. There you go.
It was all, and I remember when I finally gave up owning BMWs, because I was like, you know, and it was this factor that came from Fight Club where it was like, I'm buying shit that I don't need to impress people that I don't give a fuck about.
Right on.
And they don't care. I mean, I used to be, you know, walk around with my BMW. That was my part of my identity. And after a while, I realized that no one really cared much. Maybe some girls I dated. But even then, there was sometimes I'd date a girl and she, she'd come to my house, be like, "Why do you have to own this car? Why do you have to own this big house?" And I'm like, "Press chicks like you want to come over," and some weren't impressed. Then I realized that I was spending all this money walking around buying all this stuff and doing all these things to impress people that really didn't give a crap about me, and sometimes they're just like, "I don't give a crap that you want a BMW. Like, that doesn't mean anything to you." And I remember selling cars back in the day when I was a kid. A lot of it was based on identity. Some people see themselves as truck buyers.
That's right.
I own a truck.
That's right.
I have a pickup truck.
And you have other buyers that see themselves as economy buyers, and they buy the cheapest thing because it just gets me from point A to point B, and I get to save my money for other things.
Yeah, there's people that, I have to have a Cadillac, leather seats.
That's right.
And all that, power windows and shit. And it's interesting to me as to how we pick things in our identity. I mean, even when I date, I mean, I as I go through my Bumble and I'm lefting and righting, the swiping, I see somebody and I'm like, well, they seem nice. I don't know if they're a nice person, or someone sends you a message like, "Hey, I might be interested in you." You like look at them, and you're like, "Yeah, they seem nice." But then you're like, I wonder how I feel about my picture with theirs on Facebook. Is like, this is my girlfriend, and what people would think. It's kind of weird that we think that way, huh?
Yeah, and we often do so subconsciously.
Yeah. That's probably why, like we were joking earlier before the show about why is our girlfriends dressed as men? Because they're like, and there's a story behind that too. I used to, my girlfriend, when we'd have that whole argument we discussed, where should we go out to eat, and do you want to go here, and then we'd end up at the oyster bar. Back then I was fairly in the money, and so we'd go to the oyster bar, and usually it would be a production. Of course, you got to get the crab legs and the steak and the the expensive wine and
the Caesar salad made tableside
on it, and and so we go out there. Well, I would just be home from work, and I'd just be like, and I never dated women that cooked. I mean, I used to own a modeling agency. Okay. I dated
Of course models don't cook.
Yeah, they don't cook. You don't date models for cooking. And so they would never cook, and we go out to eat. Well, I'd want to be in my shorts. I just got done working. I'm not going to dress up to go to the oyster bar, especially when I got to bloody pay for it. And my girlfriend would always be like, "You gonna wear that when we go out to the oyster bar?" And I'd be like, "I don't give a fuck. I mean, I need to eat because you don't cook, honey." And they would be like, "Well, I don't want to be seen with you in your shorts and your flip flops in the oyster bar." Well, who cares? Who cares? I don't give a fuck about those people at the oyster bar. It's not like why do I care what they're gonna do? And she's like, "Well, we'll just look bad." But there you go. There's an identity thing right there.
Absolutely true. It goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
They're judging to see, is this somebody that I want my friends to see me with?
Yeah.
Because if you don't get the identity thing right, you have to find new friends.
Well, that explains why I'm single, isn't it? Everyone on Bumble's like, "I don't want to see with that motherfucker." Hey, swipe left.
And yeah, that's it's crazy how that works, but it is exactly how it works. But most of this identity is installed when we're young.
Yeah.
Even before we even have a chance of questioning whether this is an identity that we want. And frequently this happens with sports. People's sports preferences happens when they're kids and they go to ball games with their grandpa or their dad, and they're still following teams that are losers.
Yeah. Because
that's who they are, and they would never consider switching team. They call it my team, and there's no ownership. It's just the weirdest thing. And they're willing to make themselves miserable once a week following a team that was installed by their parents who were miserable at least once a week.
Well, my dad was never a Raiders fan, but early on, because I lived in LA, I glommed onto the Raiders. And I think one of the early books that I got was and the Raiders just won the Super Bowl, so they were kind of the shit. and I forget the name of the quarterback during the 76-77 Raiders. But I got a book about him and the Raiders, and that really cemented my Raider thing. But you just described what every Sunday is like here in watching the Raiders. I have to remove all the knives and weapons from the home because
Ken Stabler,
the fucking Raiders. It was Ken Stabler, yes, Ken Stabler. I still have a book too.
Yeah, the magic of Google.
Yeah, and on the topic of what's going on here in November 6th, in much the same way, people, once they pick a political party for the voting that's going to be happening next Tuesday, and it's dominating our news right now, the processes around that, people do the same thing with their political party choices. Once
they do.
Pick one, they stick with it for life.
And keep in mind that it tends to be very much, that identity tends to be centered around both how they were raised and the people they hang out with.
Interesting.
And political party is probably one of the most polarizing identities, just because of the way that the media makes it a polarizing factor.
It doesn't help that the president makes it very polarizing with his tweets. I know that there's, and I don't want to get political here, but I know there's a lot of people in the Republican Party who are in his party say, we really just don't like those tweets because they are polarizing. And
polarization is part of marketing. And so I don't want to talk about it from a political standpoint, although you and I over drinks would probably have a very intense conversation, which I think would be a delight. I'm always up for debate. And the thing to keep in mind is, for both of us, the rule is the moments we attack each other, the game's over.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting to me because I've been having a lot of discussions about party and politics. We'll keep it veneer. But what's interesting to me is there are some subtleties of certain political parties, or you can probably say of both parties, that are very concrete and inherent, and sometimes, what's the right words to use, obstructive or prejudice.
Well, there certainly has. They have
you can say this about both parties. I'm not.
They actually have particular worldviews.
Yeah, because I actually see the arguments on both sides of both parties,
as do I.
And the party that I usually end up identifying with, and there's our identity right there.
That's it.
And I actually tell people I'm not XYZ party. They just identify with me. So there's another example of what you're talking about with identity. But sometimes it's hard to get those voters to understand. I'll just give an example. Like I tend to identify with Democrat. I'm not really big on the whole how far the Democrats go over with the environment stuff. It has taken me a while to warm up to global warming. I do think we have an effect on the environment, but like Obama did kind of jump the shark and try and shove us down the solar hole a little too hard when they started out. In fact, if you remember, he funded, like, I think it was like 150 million or a 50 million grant loan to some solar company, and they were going to overthrow coal, and then they went bankrupt with the money, and everyone was like, well, that was fucking stupid, and way before its time. Now we can kind of see 12 years later with Tesla, and there's more, solar is more, geared for the mainstream of what it was.
So we made a lot of progress in solar.
Yeah, but that's an example of where I have to kind of take a blind eye to that identity politics. In fact, identity politics is what Bannon and Trump really use.
Indeed.
Identity politics.
Absolutely true.
And and I imagine that's what they're targeting when they hit their hot buttons.
Indeed. And let's go back to this concept of polarizing tweets. Mm-hmm. That is a marketing strategy to clearly call out identity.
Yeah.
Because when you read the president's tweets, you are either for it or against it, and there's no neutral ground.
Yeah, it's definitely quite vitriol on either side.
It's an identity driver.
And boy, we got to be careful not to steer too far into politics.
We don't want to do that, but we're talking about identity, and politics is
I hope everyone in our audience keeps this bearing in mind. Objective.
Well, the sports and politics are where identity is extremely polar.
Yeah. And is it because we get attached to them in our youth, and we've really committed to them over a lifetime?
Indeed, and because the crowd we hang out with, specifically in the world of sports, let's just go back to sports because it ends up being the same.
Yeah,
is we hang out with people who support the same team we support.
Yeah,
And this, since the Vegas Golden Knights hockey team has burst onto the scene, my dear sweet wife has become a hockey fan, where she was supported no team ever in her life. So she's fallen in love with Fleury. And the reason why is he has a physical resemblance to our youngest son.
Now, is Fleury the mascot for the Knights? Vegas Knights, or
he's the goalie.
He's the goalie. Oh, okay.
He's the goalie. He's the guy that looks like Gumby.
For the goalie?
She's hot for the goalie. She loves how he drops to his knees.
I don't.
And so you walk into her office, and she's got a wall full of Vegas Golden Knights stuff.
On identity there, Mark. If she, I don't know.
I know, but we're
that might be it. I don't know.
So the point though is that we can create identity relationships. It doesn't have to go back to our youth, although a lot of unexamined identity can be pinned back to where we made decisions before we made a logical decision, made an emotional decision versus a logical decision. And sometimes when we're selling things, we have to help a person see a new level of identity, a new way of being.
Yeah.
And that can be triggered by things such as getting married, having children, or being promoted within an organization, or taking on a new job. All of those things can trigger exploration of a person's identity. And the whole idea behind the midlife crisis, which was identified by Elliot Jacques, who is a Canadian industrial psychologist, is where, as you were explaining earlier on the show, you got to this point where, I am not my car. I am not my house. I am not my stuff.
Went through an identity crisis, a catharsis.
That's exactly right. Where you reshaped your identity.
Yeah.
You reinvented your identity.
I did. I got rid of everything that was owning me that I thought I owned and really ended up owning me.
Right on.
Yeah, you're just like I'm paying for the baby grand piano, and I'm paying for. At one point, I had a house in Utah, and we had offices in Vegas and Denver. So I had an apartment in Denver, and I had to make everything in Denver the same. I had an apartment in Vegas, and I had two BMWs in any given airport at any given time. There was one in Vegas with my golf clubs in it, and there was one in Utah. And at any given point, one of those was parked in an airport. And I mean, my life just got to be an incredible pain in the ass. It got to the point where I had my office in Utah, but I was working. I would say that I was working in Utah, and I'd fly there Monday through Thursday, visit my house, and then I would live in Vegas, or what I was trying to do was live in Vegas, and I would live Friday through Sunday in Vegas at my apartment in my other BMW down there, and just the whole menagerie of trying to make all those plates spin is just enough. And I finally reached a point where I just want to go sit at home and squat in my corner and have my little radial tires and my
oh, you are going to go to see
my network movie a bit. Just leave me alone.
Go check out the latest tires at SEMA. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
much. That's that. Well, and so what we have identified here is that when people shift their identity, that's when you can bring on a new vendor.
Yeah.
When you can bring on a new choice. And as salespeople, we're looking for that. What is it you're trying to accomplish? And when you can identify what their identity shift is doing and attach what you do to that identity shift, you will win. Yeah. Because everybody else is selling the stuff versus you are selling the support of their new identity.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is sometimes in sales, especially in like real estate, you realize that women are nesters. Someone explained this concept to me a long time. They're building a nest, and they want to make their nest. They want to personalize it. They want to make it comfortable, because part of the thing is they're bringing children into that nest. And so the whole operation is around that. And as a man, you're just the accessory in that sort of experience. In fact, you're the accessory pretty much most of the time.
Well, it's that hunter-gatherer archetype. Yeah. And you can resist it, but the reality is that generalization is true way more often than not.
And there were times in the sales process where, whether it was with cars or with women, usually men were very, they were the car buyers, and it was about their identity. But there were times where the woman would be like, no, this is my car. This isn't your car. And as a salesperson, you would have to balance out their identities and their dominance sometimes in
That's
that
right.
experience, especially in the home. Even like home sales, every now and then, the guy would be like, his ego would boost up. I have to make it, and you'd have to kind of placate to that for a little bit, while knowing that that there was this dynamic between the two decision makers.
Right on. And you really are playing to dominant submissive, because you can't have two dominants in a relationship, or two submissives in a relationship.
Yeah, and you would do that when you'd walk through the home. You'd
right on
the guy in the garage, and you'd be like, "This is the garage, and look at all the stuff you can do, and here's this yard that you can work in, because your wife doesn't want you in the house anyway, really." So
they want her. She wants you out hunting.
Yeah.
It's a hunter-gatherer thing. It's still there.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriends used to always, whenever we look at a new place, they'd always want to see the closets, and then they'd be like, "Well, I don't," I'd hear, "Well, I can't get everything that we have in the closets at this house into that new house," and I don't, it was about closet space.
Have you ever thought about getting rid of some stuff?
Yeah, that was
no.
I'll never forget. I had this one girlfriend. She's really wonderful. I'm not complaining about any of them, because I always had great girlfriends.
Well, we learn from everybody that we have in our life.
Yeah, and I was always the problem child. But I remember I had this one girlfriend, and she had clothes going back to probably the first clothes she ever goddamn bought. And
she had a onesie, a little
pretty much. And they're probably, I never was able to audit and inventory the whole clothing line, but there were clothes that I'm like, were these from the 70s? I don't think these are even going to be in style. They'll be in style in a couple years. All right, okay, whatever. But you go through some of the clothes, and you'd be like, no one wears this anymore. Like, I'm a man, and I know this isn't in style. Like, these colors are, god awful.
Well, then, so what you could say, I wouldn't be caught dead with you wearing this.
Pretty much, yeah. Which you couldn't ever say. What's wrong? Is my ass too big? But she had clothes that filled the whole master bedroom, most of her two children's clothes, and she even had clothes at her mother's house, in the empty rooms of her mother's house when they were raised as a family. And I was allotted in the closet this much space for my clothes. Now, thankfully, I like wearing shorts and shirts, and I'm not like a whole suits guy. Although this was back in the day when I wore suits. I was allotted this much space. And every, I don't know, a couple months or every month or something, there would have to be this discussion about, she would have audited and inventoried everything that was in this space. And she's like, "Do you really need all that? Because I need some more space for this." I'm like, "Fuck you. This is my space. This is my identity. This is all you give me.
It's all I've got.
It's all I've got. Just leave me alone with my lacy boy, my radial tires, and my Darcy Bunker TV."
Oh yeah,
I'm sick of it. I can't take it anymore. But it is interesting. So I mean, as people, do we need to sit down and do inventory identity clearances? Do we need to ask, what is my identity?
Well, I think that's that concept of know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know yourself, the easier it is for you to make choices that support your identity, or you can make intelligent decisions about shifting your identity to new ways, new places.
And maybe that helps in your buying decisions, because you're like, do I really like this? Because that did happen to me when I went through my catharsis. I love BMWs. But I remember years ago, after converting from a BMW to just a car that I have that's fitting for convenience for my single lifestyle, because I only drive once every 3 to 4 days.
Down the corner.
I have groceries delivered. I have it all delivered.
Yeah.
How
millennial of you.
There's some times where I actually go, I'm driven for 3 or 4 days. I should go drive that thing so the battery doesn't die. I remember one time I went to the dog park, and I usually take my dogs with me, and my car is covered in hair. Good look. And so I went to the dog park, and it was just mud. It just rained, and the dogs came back. They jumped in my car, and I'm like, this is probably why it's a good thing I don't own a BMW anymore.
Yeah, right on.
I would be freaking the hell out right now. And no, I don't really have to care that much, you know.
That's the point, is that you don't want to have stuff that owns you. That is an ugly place to be, because you really have disconnected yourself from yourself in those
spaces. You spend all your time just keeping the plate spinning.
Yeah.
And you know, I've had friends. I actually thought several times about buying another BMW, and I'm like, what am I going to do? It's going to rot in the garage all day long.
And with self-driving cars coming online really soon, I don't think that it makes any sense at all to buy a car anymore.
And you brought that up earlier. We're moving into that age of where there's a disposability of where you with self-driving cars, you'll just call up a car, a car will come. It's a utility, as opposed to an identity of luxury.
That's exactly right.
Dragging your friends, hey, look, I ordered a car, and I'm going to throw it away.
Exactly. It's a big shift. Is this moving now? Let's go back and talk about that shift from the age of ownership to the age of access. The big underlying advance is in the age of ownership, you have the fear of loss. Which means you owned it, you had to insure it, you had to protect it, you had to secure it.
Had to worry about people stealing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the stuff breaking, you have to maintain it. And this movement to the age of access means you have none of that fear of loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we move to is this fear of missing out.
The FOMO.
FOMO. Yeah. But the good news is that you can rein in FOMO way faster than you can rein in other fears.
Yeah, just turn off your phone and your social media accounts and you'll be fine.
Decide who you are and be okay with that.
You know, maybe that's what more people need to do. They need to decide who they are and that they aren't. You know, I remember my good friend Robert Scoble, this is always stuck in my head all the years he said it. He goes, you know, we live in this FOMO world now with social media, and people see other people's Instagram accounts, and it causes a lot of depression, even worse now today with these young kids that they don't understand. And people only post the high points of their life. Which is
the reason why the Chris Voss Show is so great, because we get to broadcast both the highs and the low points.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we should probably start drinking now. That's
why 420 somewhere.
Because God knows you don't want to see the rest of the time. This is, you know, I do an 8-ball of Coke before the show. We're jacked up and we do it and rock and roll. And then after that, I don't do an 8-ball.
Well, keep in mind, Chris, it's 420 somewhere.
I probably need another shot then. So it is legal here. The 420. But I'm trying to think of the point that I was about to make on that.
The point about knowing yourself.
The point about knowing yourself, but the
Instagram and people.
You know, somebody said, I forget who it was.
You were talking about Scoble.
I was talking about Scoble, and Scoble made this point. He goes, you know, no one ever Instagrams, or back then it was Foursquare. He goes, no one ever Foursquares the check-in at the methadone clinic,
right?
At the parole office, at the pawn shop.
That's right.
At the STD doctor. No one ever checks in at those locations. No one ever posts, hey, look, I'm at the methadone rehab clinic. Woohoo! You know, and we put these things on social media that are these perceived high points, like we live at that elevation at all times. Yeah. And it does create this FOMO amongst people, like you mentioned, where, you know, it's, oh, well, Joni looks like she's on vacation all the time, Chris. You need to make some more money so that we can be like Joni on vacation. And really, you know, I don't know what Joni's doing, but you know what I mean.
Well, Joni is obviously fleecing, conning other people into taking her on vacation.
Something like that, you know, and that, or, you know, what I do is when I travel, I'm a photographer, so I'll take like 20,000 photos, and then you take time doling out those photos and editing them and putting them out. My friend Thomas Hawk, I mean, if he takes a photo, he's taking photos of me, and I'll like hound him. I'm like, hey, when do I get that photo? He's like, probably in about 4 years, Chris. I'm like, why? And he goes, because that's how far behind I am in editing, and that's how I work. I take like 20 or 30,000 photos, and then I'm still doing photos from 4 years ago, and that's how he works. And even now, I have probably with my dogs, I don't know, 50,000 photos of my dogs, going back to the 2 other dogs that have passed away, where I still have not processed their photos.
Well, I think you explained to everybody listening to the show.
Yeah.
We all have a bazillion photos of people we don't care about anymore.
Yeah. Well, I still care about them. I just haven't gotten the time to get around to them because
delete them from your
complete. And even worse now, when I do edit those photos and go back through those dogs, it's very different than when with my dogs that I have now, because it's very finite. Those pictures can't be replaced. I'll even keep photos that are out of focus because the subject is no longer with us, and it's finite. I'll never be able to get that picture or close to that picture again, even though it's out of focus. There's something about throwing it away that I have issues with too, and whatever. It's fine with me.
This is back to identity.
It's part of my identity, I suppose. Yeah, it actually is. I go through that catharsis with when I lost my two dogs that had traveled with me through 16 to 17 years of their life, of my life. And when I lost both of them within 2 or 3 years of each other, when I lost the second one, I really felt like it was closing off a part of my identity, those 17 years. And that because they were witness to it. And that was actually an issue that I have with it, is that I feel like a part of that life or that identity is lost, which is kind of an interesting approach since we're talking about identity.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so those pictures help remind us and anchor those identity points in our life.
Yeah. And it is kind of odd. I have a different identity now, and I actually objectify that when I think about the two puppies that I have now. And to me, there is a different chapter of my life, a segment of my life, where this is this area and that was that area. And I guess that is an identity sort in and of itself.
Indeed. In fact, I think you've brought up a really interesting concept of why people feel so at loss when a pet leaves their life. Mm-hmm. It's because there's a piece of their identity that's gone and will no longer be reclaimed.
Yeah.
And so that we feel a loss, not just for our friend, but we lose that piece of us that was such an important component of us.
And even stuff that we lose. I remember years ago, or being stolen. I remember years ago, someone stole this really nice. It was a really nice. What was that satellite radio? Sirius. It was a Sirius XM radio. It was really cool. It was like about this big. And I remember when someone stole it, and I really loved and I really appreciate that. And I just felt so. What's the right word? I just felt so violated by that, and really it was a violation of my identity, I guess, when it comes down to it. Because
you were the guy that had that early on external radio. It was part of what you did. Yeah. It's crazy how we do that, and I think that's where if we examine our identity intentionally, and we decide the identity of who we wish to be versus making it unintentional or accidental or something or baggage that we're carrying. Remember, part of that's part of that concept of baggage is we have an identity that no longer serves us that we agreed to pick up in the past, and we have to let that go.
Yeah.
And that reinvention process is painful because it causes us to have to shift our identity. And the way that you do it is actually pretty simple. You have to spend time with you alone. No phone.
I think that's what the vodka's for.
No internet. Well, that'll bring out a certain part of your identity. You notice how some people are happy drunks and some people are asshole drunks?
Yeah.
The thing is, that's interesting things about alcohol is it amplifies a natural identity.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I have dated women that they're fun drunks, but on a rare occasion I've had girlfriends that when they drink, they become something more angry and meaner than anything I've ever seen, and it amplifies their thing. And and that is kind of. I mean, I've known friends that do drugs, and a certain drug that you would expect to do a certain thing, like say cocaine, would depress them as opposed to make them more happy. You're like, it's not what cocaine's supposed to do, but it is interesting. And
same thing with money. Money amplifies people's identity.
Yeah, especially when you roll the $100 bills and snort the cocaine. And it amplifies that.
Indeed. All that amplification. Amplification is not an amplification. Get a lot of feedback. Screech.
$100 bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe I should be spending more time when I go through my world understanding people from an identity process. Like, what is their identity and how is their identity? I know a lot of people, their identity is to be a good dad.
Yeah, right.
Be
a good husband.
Certainly people post those pictures. I'm a dog dad, so I'm always showing off my kids and the videos.
And part of your identity is
ad nauseum to some people, where they're just like, really another photo of your dog. And I'm the same way with people's kids. I'm like, look, I've seen your fucking kid. I don't need to see another photo. It's a child, really. You know, it's like when people show me their babies, I'm like, what? You're like, it's beautiful. You're like, I don't know. It looks like it's fat and cheeky and angry to be here. Babies don't look happy most of the time. Sometimes they do that, like, hey. But the rest of the time, they're just like, it's cold, and I hear there's taxes and death coming,
and I'd rather do anything but take my picture right now.
But the only time they're happy is when they're pooping their pants, which is kind of where I'm at
temporary.
Now.
Yeah, that's where we end up. We start off pooping our pants. We end up pooping in our pants.
The whole thing that we were talking earlier about doing the Depend show with
Insure and with Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, the
Insure and do they still make what was that stuff that used to sell? Geritol. Remember that?
Geritol.
They still sell Geritol.
Was that the nasty stuff your grandparents used to put on their cream for their arthritis and shit?
Oh, I think that was
stink.
Fuck it all or something like that.
Yeah.
No, that was Bengay.
What was Geritol? Oh, Bengay. Yeah, the Bengay.
Yeah, Geritol was this liquid that was like iron, and it was primarily alcohol.
I think it was mostly like lead and mercury.
Yeah.
So it was from the 70s.
Brought to you by Geritol.
Hang and shoot that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are the days, wasn't it? I remember watching I grew up in the age of cigarettes and everyone smoking.
Oh, sure.
I think I remember going into the hospital. They were, the doctors like,
smoking.
Yeah, you probably have lung cancer. I'm thinking, I don't know what's causing it right now, but if you have a lung cancer, honey.
That's right. 4 out of 5 doctors surveyed smoke Camels.
Recommend Camel.
Yeah, right.
Those are back in the days. Which you kind of have to wonder now when the doctor says, you've got stents in your heart. You need XYZ. I should start selling ads to prescription companies so I can use references.
We get out that physician's desk reference.
Yeah.
Pick your poison.
And, just pick one of the. You'd think I can remember them all for all the ones that are on TV. In fact, I pretty much quit watching TV.
Oh.
And when I do watch, I use Sling TV. And I usually watch on my laptop next to my desk. So I have my main computer and I have a laptop there. And as soon as the commercial comes on, it's like mute.
Yeah, right on. Sling TV, Crutch TV, Cast TV, whatever. But the reality is, about 10 years ago, the entire news world shifted away from reporting news. You don't see news on TV anymore.
Yeah, it was about the same time MTV quit putting music videos.
Exactly. And the reason why is because we can get news on the internet anytime, any place, anywhere. So they made this wholesale pivot to opinion.
Yeah.
And there is no news is all opinion. And opinion is designed to scare the crap out of you. So you'll sit through the pharmacy commercials.
Well, I mean, you brought this up earlier. It's meant to hit that marketing hot button that sets you
polarization,
that gives you that whole thing. CNN is classic for that. I can barely stand to watch CNN.
MSNBC, Fox, all of them.
Quite as bad as CNN. CNN and Zucker, whatever his name is, the guy who runs it, they do those panels. Mm-hmm. And those panels drive me fucking insane with their bullshit.
Yeah. Because
at the end of an hour of fucking argument between, and he always sets up the panels to where we got the extreme rightists, the extreme leftists, and I've even seen some parroting videos where they cut to Anderson Cooper's face where he's like, seriously, this is some bullshit right here we go. I'm like,
I'm so glad I make millions to put up with this crap.
Yeah, And really, they're just like, well, okay, you can't call the person the N-word, and you can't punch that person in the face, and they're just kind of like the referees to the panel, where if shit just gets way too fucking out of hand,
and the panel knows exactly which role to play.
Yeah, but they know how to get it to that point where it's out of hand, and they come in, they're like, hey, all right, everyone stop punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
We've hit the line.
And every other show is doing the same thing. You know, you watch Fox News shows, it's the same left, right crap.
But at the end of it, you're just like, what did we accomplish with all that yelling and screaming between the left and right? Did we resolve something at the end where we're like, okay,
no, there is no resolution. It's just hilarious.
Yeah. And it's just what you talked about earlier, where even Donald Trump recently did an interview with Axios. And this just came out the last day. I think it's being published right now. But he's talking with the Axios CEO. His name escapes me right now. And the Axios CEO is, why do you have to be so bombastic? Why do you have to go there? And Trump's like, that's what fires up my base. And it's what you mentioned earlier, that those marketing hit points of being able to fire someone up to get them to buy something, whether it's a political concept or whether it's a car or whether it's what you're trying to sell. You've got to be able to hit that target. And the one thing you do learn in sales, and this is probably why I see through politics more than most people do, is you learn that if I'm selling you a car and there's a process we have to go through, there's the financing, and there's a whole thing. Even during the sale, like if I sell certain services, there's sometimes where the buyer starts to get off track and go, is this really my identity? And you as a salesperson have to go back and bang that button to remind them as to why they made that buying decision again.
Right on.
And then they're like, oh yeah, that's the hot button right there. Yeah, now I remember why I do that. And when I do long-term contracts, long-term sales relationships with people, there's a lot of times where as a salesperson, I have to be really good at getting back to that. Otherwise, the sale can go off track, or they go find somebody else, or they decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And you're like, well, all right, yeah, there goes the thing. I think some of my longest customers for our companies back in the day were until we shut them down. Like, we had some of the same clients for 13 years. With my social media business, I've had the same clients for up to 8 years. And part of through that whole process is sometimes you have to go back and you have to hit that button. As a marketer, you have to know what that button is and remember what their hot button is, so you can realign and resubmit that sale and keep helping them accomplish what they do. Because it is interesting how people do forget why did I do this in the first place?
Yeah, they get distracted. I think you've identified something very interesting, which is when a sales goes sideways, there's been a disconnect from your identity.
Yeah. It's kind of how my relationships work. After a while of not having sex, I'd be like, why am I here? And then the girlfriend would be like, I should probably service that accessory. And then you get service, you're like, oh, this is why I'm here.
And when your identity is in alignment, then it's easy to make those decisions.
Yeah. So we should probably wrap up the show because we're going on forever. But we got to have you back, Mark. We should probably do a show, add a thing. And when we have you back, we'll do that segment of the show we discussed pre-show about
the Geritol,
what's in people's background.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have a very interesting thing going back there. That's probably a whole hour right there.
Oh, yeah. So, listen, what we talked about before the show is Chris says, what's that stuff behind you?
What's that stuff behind you segment of the podcast?
And I started
what the fuck is going on behind you?
So I started pulling out weird shit that means something to me and is not stuff you see every day. So
sounds like you're dating on Friday nights.
Indeed.
So that's a teaser for the next show with Mark Smith. Be sure to tune in for that. Mark, give me your plugs one more time so that people can look you up on the interwebs.
So probably the coolest thing is if you run a company, come hang out with me. I help executives think like a strategist. So if you want to up-level your mindset, your skill set, and your tool set to run a sustainable, scalable, profitable, and ultimately saleable company, come hang out with me. It's the executivestrategysummit.com. I do it every 4 times a year, maybe even more often, but that's really cool stuff. Check me out on LinkedIn, marksonlinkedin.com. I'll take you straight to my profile. find me Mark S.A. Smith. If you don't leave out the S.A., you'll find all kinds of football players and basketball players that have way better social media than I have.
That is funny. I googled you, Mark Smith, and I came up with a guy who plays basketball, and I was like, oh, that's clearly not Mark Smith.
Clearly,
especially
wrong complexion.
African American, and you're clearly.
Yeah, I'm a white guy.
You're clearly a white guy.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, the basketball star seemed like he might be more interesting because he could tell me about groupies and how to play basketball. But you were here, so that we may do. So everyone check out Mark. I follow him on Facebook. He's a great guy. He posts a lot of intelligent stuff, unlike me. So that's why I like following him, because he makes me feel better about my identity.
Yeah, Mark's on FB.com. Mark's on Twitter.com.
I surround myself with people smarter than me so that I think I'm smart. That's that.
Well, that's really a great thing to do, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to change rooms.
That, or you need to, go see a psychiatrist about your nihilistic narcissism.
Order a drink.
Yeah. See a fucking drink. That actually should be how that joke ends when it comes down to it. Anyway, for those of you, be sure to check out Mark, of course, and appreciate him coming by the show. Appreciate you guys as an audience for tuning in. Hopefully you've been entertained this far. I think you have. If not, see a psychiatrist. You can find me on Bumble and Tinder and Match.com. You won't find me on eHarmony because I failed the test over there, clearly. If you've been listening to the show, you know I did. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. We certainly appreciate you. Be sure to refer the show to your friends. Jesus Christ, if you listen this far, you know where to find it. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Google Play. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time.